Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show. Hope you're having a great day as we come to you from the Citizens Bank studio. Thrilled to have them as a sponsor for the Ricky Matthews Show. As we continue to celebrate all the wonderful people really across the state of Mississippi who are working so hard to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Man, it's interesting. We are approaching the end of July. I mean, where did this year go? I mean, I literally remember in January saying, I can't believe it's 2025, and here we are halfway through the year. And on top of that, kind of barreling toward the peak of the hurricane season. I was glad to see recently that they've ratcheted down some of the expectations, but unfortunately still going to be a slightly above average season predicted. So we always pray that we're going to get through the next couple of months unscathed. I hope that's the case this year. My wife, Ann, celebrating our anniversary, drove down Highway 90 recently, went to White Pillars to have dinner. What a beautiful, wonderful restaurant that is. Our friend Austin Summerall, who has been a regular on this show, does a great job there. But as we're driving down, you see the sand dunes, along the beach and how beautiful that is with the sea oaks kind of moving in the wind. And gosh, we live in such a beautiful place, but I love the sand dunes. And Ann made the point that, look how strong they are and how well developed they are. And that's because there hasn't been a major storm to mess with them. And I'm like, you're right about that. You're right about that. So hopefully they don't get messed with this year. Okay, listen, I've been looking forward. I always look forward to my time with Michael Sunderman, my good friend. We've worked in the community together, known each other for many, many years. He's the president and publisher of M2 Media. M2, Mary, his wife, and Michael together in this terrific organization they built, South Mississippi Living. The magazine, Discover South Mississippi, Jackpot magazine, and then also Mississippi Gaming News. And they do some other commercial printing and other stuff that they do with chambers and whatever. But they stay busy. I don't know how they do it. They're jacks of all trades. But it's great to have you back, Michael.
Great to be here, Ricky.
It's true. You have to be a jack of all trades, don't you?
It is. And in fact, we're starting our 13th magazine soon. I think in August, we got a contract to produce an annual magazine for the city of Gulfport. So we do Gulfport, Biloxi, Hancock County, 2 for Ocean Springs, and 1 for Pascagoula, the Tourism Bureau, Jackpot here in Jackpot, Tunica, Gaming News. We just finished co-producing the Gaming Hall of Fame and the Mississippi Casino Cup. So we do all kinds of stuff. Keeps us busy. You're right.
Well, we're actually going to come back to that. The 2025 honorees for the Hall of Fame are Duncan McKenzie, Hugh Keating, and Kirk Fordyce. Of course, Kirk Fordyce, he was honored posthumously. I knew him, and he did some really important things as this pro-business leader back in the early 1990s, particularly as it relates to Indian gaming. And then Hugh Keating and Duncan McKenzie, we both worked with Duncan so closely for a lot of years. And then, of course, with Hugh Keating, I've had the opportunity, the new mayor of Gulfport, kind of follows a long list of Gulfport mayors that didn't have to run for mayor, but felt like it was their duty, and Hugh did and got elected. I'm excited about Hugh, but his influence in the industry as a lawyer, I've tracked that historical path many, many times, but Hugh's role is undeniable. Thrilled to see all 3 of them get honored. We'll come back to that in just a second. But okay. Look, Michael, how things going with your businesses?
It's solid. It's solid. Listen, you always hope for more, but it's solid. No complaints. The economy is a little sketchy some days. It seems like some of the small businesses are struggling. But I'm hoping that is a little kind of bump in the road, and we all get over that and keep moving on. And the economy gets stronger down here again. The gaming markets are doing well.
Yeah, the gaming markets are really doing well, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But you know this. I have written prolifically recently about this region as an economic engine. And when I say it's not just the 3 coast counties, but I really tend to talk about the 6 coast counties together. Each of them have their own economic development organizations, and those folks are regularly on my show, and they do really fine work. Their charters are slightly different. At the end of the day, the times are kind of competitive with one another. It's unfortunate, but that's the truth. And what I've been pushing for is a regional economic development alliance that it doesn't replace what they do. They continue to do what they do, but on the big stuff, they come together. I'm concerned, Mike. I've written about this. I don't think we're as diversified as we need to be. Over 87,000 direct and indirect jobs are involved in gaming and government. And when I talk about government, I mean Ingalls and Bollinger, shipbuilding, and all the entities surrounding them, and Keesler and CB Base, other military presence, and then, of course, Stennis and the role that Stennis plays. That's a lot, over 87,000 direct and indirect jobs in those two sectors. We've got to diversify. So when I'm on the show with people like John Hairston and Dave Dennis, I think Dave's a really good one, and I'll explain why I think he's a good barometer here in just a second. But with John Hairston, Hancock Whitney is doing business in Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi, and he says the fastest growing area of his area of influence is in the Florida Panhandle. It gets your attention, and we just don't see the growth in coastal Mississippi. Look. We're barreling along and holding our own, but the issue is growth. Are we building new stuff? And when I say new stuff, I mean big job producing stuff. Why I think Dave Dennis is a good barometer is that the kind of businesses he's doing, he works with general contractors. He does sheetrock and steel structures like that, internal structures, and he's really, through specialty contracts, he and his family have built this incredible business. And he's just not involved in building stuff in Mississippi right now. He's involved in 7 states, but just not building stuff here in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Those, to me, are barometers that we aren't growing fast enough. We aren't diversifying fast enough, and there's more that we can do. And I know there's a lot of talk and discussion about it. I love having the Gulfport State Port of Gulfport on the Pascagoula port that often is not on people's radar screen. That is, man, they're blowing and going and doing amazing things, and their opportunities to expand are great as well. When you talk to small business people, they will tell you that it's not as robust as they wish it was, and we just got to do better. I don't know how much, you're out and about, you talk to people, but I mean, I think there's tremendous opportunities for us, but we've got to get more proactive. That's my point.
Yeah, I'd love to see all the economic development people, all the chambers and downtown associations kind of meet, maybe semi-annual, and just share their thoughts on what they can do to market this thing better. Coastal tourism, they're doing a very good job. Our tourism numbers are up. Our hotel occupancy is up, and we're building more hotels, which is nice. Now we got to fill those rooms. But you're right. We need more diversity of businesses and more job opportunity to keep, especially these young kids that are out of high school or just out of college, make them want to come back home and make a life down here.
Hey, then on top of that, and I've done shows focused on this, but AI is going to have a tremendous impact. I mean, a bigger impact than most people realize. And it's going to create some opportunities, but it's estimated the net after new jobs created by AI, the net job loss in Mississippi over the next 5 to 10 years could be as high as 50 to 70,000 jobs. So with very aggressive, work on other stuff, maybe that could be reduced to 30,000. Based on what I've read and my best estimates. So there's going to be some real opportunities. But I think that the one thing we can control bringing in advanced manufacturing. We can control bringing in the kind of industry that needs a port, that needs interstate highway, that needs rail. Sometimes our economic development people are going to have to work together to, instead of responding to the request, let's go seek someone. Let's go out and be proactive.
Yes.
And let's market this region as an economic entity, unlike any other. When you add in quality of life and standard of living and cost of living and all the other things that go with that, we're a tremendous opportunity here. And I will continue to preach the need for a Coastal Mississippi Economic Development Alliance and a real honest look at where we are. We're doing well. We can just do so much better. We're not building new stuff here the way we need to, and we've got to get focused on that. I mean, that's not a slight to anybody. That's just looking at the raw honest numbers, we've got to do better. And you see what's happening across the state, man, the economic development that's happening across the state. It is dramatic. And we need to be in that.
Yeah, it seems
number.
like
That's
every day.
nowhere.
Yeah, it seems like every day the governor announces another project up north or in the Delta or something like that. And that's what,
Yeah.
come on, bring something down here.
We do definitely need something here. And we get there because we're together and we're organized and we're legitimate and we're focused in a regional capacity in a way that we can compete with those other communities that I've talked about. The Florida Panhandle, for example, Savannah, Georgia, what they're doing there is very, very impressive. But there are so many others, and I've written about them. But this is not about that. But I wish that we were doing slightly better. That's for sure. Gaming, man, you look at gaming, the proliferation of gaming across the United States. You look at online gaming, et cetera. They've got some real competitive threats against them, and we're still holding our own. When we get back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about that with Michael Sunderman. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. Hope you're having a great day. I'm visiting with my friend Michael Sunderman. Listen, we were talking before we went to break about sort of the regional capacity, economic capacity of coastal Mississippi, the need for a coastal Mississippi Economic Development Alliance. When you just kind of zero in on the gaming sector for a second, in coastal Mississippi, it's a $1.5 billion market. In Biloxi, it's over $1 billion. And, of course, FOFO keeps raising the question, let's make the coastal market a $2 billion market. What do we have to do that? It's going to be hard to grow it just based on what we have now. We're going to, with all the competition, with online gaming, and all the things that are competing with us, what I think you're going to see in the future, you're going to see more non-gaming amenities that, more non-gaming revenue that's going to be happening at each of the casinos. You're going to see some new casino players. They'll have to develop significant infrastructure. You won't just be able to do low key investment and be successful here in coastal Mississippi. But we'll see more players before it's over with. But in spite of the competitive situation, our gaming community has done a terrific job of sort of battling the competition, haven't they?
They really have. They've kept up to date. They've renewed their products a lot. They've remodeled. They've added new restaurants. They've added just more reasons to come revisit their properties or try a new property next time you're down here. The Beau Rivage has done a terrific job of bringing airplanes and flights. Over a million new guests coming in via airplanes now. Every time you do that, you're exposing this market to more and more people in a broader market, and they're going to go home and they're going to tell everybody what a great time they had here. And I guarantee they're going to want to make that next trip with them.
Yeah, Harris and Jonathan Jones have done some similar things with charter flights, and when you talk to the officials at the Biloxi Gulfport or Gulfport Biloxi International Airport, what you learn is that a big slice of their total revenue is coming from the gaming charter flights. So it's a very diversified thing.
Correct.
So you've got business travel and tourism travel and individual travel, and you've got the gaming piece. Military is a big part of travel coming out of the Gulfport Biloxi International Airport. But yeah, the gaming sector, man, they're serious about this. And dude, when they start to look at their database and understand their customer and do their targeting and figure out where they want their planes to come from, they don't leave a stone unturned. They're very smart about it, aren't they?
They're very good. They've got whole departments set up at casinos to do nothing but track players and track initiatives that they're involved in, and they measure every customer. What was that customer worth? What did they play? What did they eat? Where they go? How long did they stay in the casino? It's amazing what they can track on you.
It really is. It really is. Think about it. Think about it for just the listener listening. Think about Disney World. If Disney World never changed, people wouldn't come back. Year in and year out. They're constantly trying to figure out what tweaks can we make where we can invest in creating something new, a new experience for people. And that's the way the casinos are thinking. They have to think that way in order to remain competitive. And the competition is not just among each other and other casinos in Mississippi, but it's the entire Southeast. For that matter, it's the entire United States as gaming proliferation has continued to happen. And that's not going to cease anytime soon. You're going to continue to see investment across the United States, aren't you, Michael?
You are, and like down here, our sports betting, which took off very quickly, we were one of the first states to adopt the sports betting. We've seen a significant drop in sports betting simply because so many other states have adopted online gaming, online sports betting, and there's a big debate within the casinos within Mississippi of how best to approach that. There's some casinos that are gung ho, let's do it, and the smaller casinos are looking at, listen, if they can come across the state line and place a bet, they're not going to come to my casino. They're not going to eat lunch. They're not going to put money in the slot machine. That's not a win-win for us at all. So I think that's a big debate there.
Yeah, I think, but see, here's what I think. It's a little bit like newspapers fearing the internet. I mean, for those who did and didn't make proper adjustments, they went to hell in a handbasket. And that's just the reality of it. So you got to look at what is the evolving nature of the technology that exists. And so the concern from some of the smaller casinos is that we would get online gaming. That's not going to happen in Mississippi. I don't think there's any chance that's going to happen in Mississippi. But online sports betting is something we should consider in a very unique approach where the sports betting is tied to local casinos. I think there's a way to do it, but I don't think we can ignore it much longer, Michael. I really don't. I see the tide shifting radically, particularly with the point that you just made, and that is neighboring states are getting sports betting, and we're not where we need to be, and we're losing money. I mean, at the end of the day, we're losing money to bordering states, and it's something we better pay attention to. That's kind of where my head is.
Yeah, I think if it gets to the point where the existing casinos they see their sportsbook revenue almost disappear, then just like you said about newspapers and internet, then we've missed that kind of boat, that opportunity. So they should probably embrace some sort of concept quickly, and get the state behind it and make some really good tight rules and geofencing. My concern is that we don't know who's at home betting. I don't know if my son's at home betting, or he has a problem gambler. We don't know that. So there has to be some really tight rules on that kind of stuff and some really good software that can measure that.
I agree, but here's the thing: they're going to do it. I mean, if they have access to tools now. I mean, that's the reality. So I get that argument, but it's not a viable argument in the world that we live in now with the proliferation. So I think I like your point about geofencing for people who don't know what that is. It gives you the ability to determine a geographic location digitally, and the relationship between a particular site that I would go to for sports betting would have to tie back to a specific casino. And then that way, for example, if you go in and make a sports bet in the Beau Rivage or Harris and you have a relationship with them, then don't happen to be in either one of those, but you're in Jackson or in Tupelo, you can still place a bet through Harris or the Beau Rivage. And that's kind of what they're talking about. I mean, this could always morph, but the competitive landscape forces us to think about this. I mean, again, I bring, and so do you, Michael, tremendous awareness of what happened to newspapers that did not embrace the digital reality. And this is sort of the same thing. And in fact, we did not have the same opportunity as casinos have. And that is to put some kind of firewall around how it's going to work. We didn't have that. It was the Wild West. And if you didn't embrace the Wild West, you didn't last very long. And at least in this particular scenario, casinos actually have an opportunity to really shape the legislation in a way that serves them. So you got to embrace it, man. That's where I am, and I've seen the pushback, and I've seen the concerns. And
the people in Jackson see this as a $20 to $50 million additional tax revenue stream for them, which is huge. Yeah. I don't know if it'd be that high, but you never know. When you open those phones up, you can get a lot of business.
Hey, the longer we wait, the less it will be, because people develop relationships with other brands and other capabilities, and it's a problem. We got to pay attention to it.
I'm a golfer. Even the PGA Tour has embraced gambling. They're actually listing, hey, Scotty Scheffler's at 3-1 odds right now, and they're not saying go bet, but saying, but if you want to bet, here's the odds right now. So every sport's embracing it. Football is huge that way. So, yep.
Hey, listen, I had Jeff Duncan on recently, speaking of live golf, and it got out before the state wanted to announce it because a schedule was disclosed for the 2026 live tournament trail. And Bio Oaks at City Park is going to be a location that's going to host a live golf tournament. But the state's going to put $5 million to entice them to come. I mean, they're going to $5 million, and then additional $2 million that's going to take about $7 million in taxpayer money. Jeff wrote a column about it, and man, the feedback that Jeff got was outrageous. I mean, a lot of people not happy. I think it's the divide that exists between the PGA and live. People are golf fans are still in that space, but then also considering the Saudi Arabia fund needing any enticement when they're paying players hundreds of millions of dollars. And they're taking $5 million away from other events, sports events that could be used for that. It's going to be interesting to see if Live and PGA can ever figure this out. I have my doubts.
But Bayou Oaks?
Yeah.
Are you sure that's the course?
100%. And they're going to have to make major improvements on it. That's one of the things that Jeff and I talked about. And that's something.
Yeah, that's, if you ranked our courses like 1 through 12, that might be, 12.
Right.
And of course, you can play down here versus a Grand Bear or a Fallen Oak or a Wind Dance, Shell Landing. Gosh, the bridge is down in Bay St. Louis. I don't know why. That says a lot about Live, that they're that desperate to take a course like that and try to hold an international event.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see that. And listen, when we come back with Jeff, we're going to actually look at the Hall of Fame winners. Each of them have done tremendous things to help us with solidifying gaming in the state of Mississippi. Governor Fordyce, in his case, was given a Hall of Fame honor posthumously. But we'll focus on that when we come back. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. We're visiting with Michael Sunderman. You know him from South Mississippi Living, Jackpot magazine. He has others as well. But he's actually very involved in helping to coordinate the Hall of Fame, and this is for the Gaming Association. This year was presented by The View and Scarlet Pearl, and another very successful event. I've seen a lot of the pictures from there, but you have to be honored to be sort of in the driver's seat to helping pull this together.
It is, yeah. We've done this for 7 years. Our first one was 2018. I think we skipped 2020 or 22, something like that, for the COVID stuff. This is our 7th show in a row. For 6 years, we held it at the Bow, and then this past year they wanted to move it around a bit. So Barry down at the Hollywood Casino put a great bid out in front of us, and we took it. And it was a fantastic event because we also got to do another event that I chair, is the Mississippi Casino Cup golf tournament, statewide golf tournament, and we combined those together. So in the morning we had over 100 golfers from around the state playing for the Mississippi Casino Cup, and Island View won, Rick Hardesty won. And then that evening at 5:30, we opened the doors for the Hall of Fame and inducted 3 more amazing gaming icons into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Duncan McKenzie, Hugh Keating, and Kirk Fordyce. Let's start with Duncan. You and I have known Duncan for so many times. There's not a finer man on this earth. I worked with him before and after Katrina in so many different roles. But I bet people were thrilled to see Duncan get recognized.
Absolutely. We sold out the place. Sometimes you wondered, moving to a different venue and what would happen. We still sold out. And Duncan gave a very emotional acceptance speech. If you think about Duncan, I knew Duncan from the days of Nevada. So, we both moved here a certain time. He went to New Orleans for a while. Then he was with, he was with Grand Casinos, Hard Rock, IP. He's been a leader in the gaming industry for 30 years down here, and he was extremely deserving to be in there. He's done a lot, and he's also done a lot outside of gaming. He's chaired a lot of charity organizations. He was chairman of the Gulf Coast Golf Tournament for a while, and he's a good man. I'm proud to say he's a good friend of mine.
He's raised a lot of money over the years and given out a lot of money over the years. But one of the things about Duncan. And again, he and I had the opportunity to work together in so many different capacities, but was that he always understood that as a CEO, to be complete, you had to be willing to give back to the community. It wasn't just giving money, which he certainly did, but it was giving his leadership. It was, being willing to get in the trenches with others. That always defined him. I mean, certainly before Katrina, and again, the chamber in so many different ways we came together. After Katrina, working on the business council together and other ways that he gave back. But Duncan was always somebody you could rely on. I don't know that I ever asked Duncan for anything where he said no. He was always going to try to find a way to say no.
Yeah.
And do it with a smile. And he cared. And I was so thrilled to see him get recognized. Anything else you want to say about Duncan?
Oh no, he's more than deserving. And then we talked about Hugh Keating, and a lot of people. And listen, Hugh's been like a personal attorney of my wife and I's for years, but people didn't know all the work he does on shaping the laws and the documents that form the laws for onshore gaming. People didn't know that he was originally involved with Rick Carter in bringing Cy Red to the coast and bringing that ship which was turned eventually into the Copa. And he was involved every step of the way. He did a lot of work up in Jackson, getting these lobbying for these laws to pass. And he told some incredible stories back in the day of how things happened. And that really is my favorite part of the Hall of Fame, is listening to the acceptance speeches and letting them share their memories of kind of why they're on that podium and what it took to be there. So he's a great guy, and he's going to make a great mayor of Gulfport too.
He's going to make a great mayor of Gulfport. Listen, one of the most popular shows I ever did, and there's several that hit in the tens of thousands of views, but one was with Rick Carter and Terry Green, kind of telling their story. And there was so much serendipity along the way, and this relationship with Cy Red on the Pride of Mississippi, as you pointed out, and eventually Cy giving that boat to them. But Hugh was there, for people who were here in the early days. The early days, you had to sail into international waters. And then sort of the next iteration was just kind of be on the way to international water. But they literally locked the casino up, and they didn't unchain it until you got into international waters. Then it was just untying and being on the way to international waters. They'd go out there and just kind of ride around. And then eventually dockside. And the role that Rick and Terry and Hugh, and there were others, there was the effort that was happening in Biloxi kind of simultaneous to all this. But the reality was Hugh played such an incredibly important legal role in convincing our legislature to say, let's just do dockside. And I don't think anybody imagined that. You mentioned Duncan and Grand Casinos, that in Gulfport and in Biloxi, that you would put barges, each the size of a football field, end to end, and build, 5-story buildings on top of it. I don't think any of us ever imagined that would come to fruition in the way that it did. And then after Katrina, the work that was happening, the way that I would describe it, because I was there in a lot of those meetings, I held some of those meetings at my house, for a matter of fact, as we were trying to overcome some of these like bumps in the road to convince, at the time, the Speaker of the House, Billy McCoy, and so many others, that we needed to do, land-based gaming to protect the industry, to give them the opportunity to come back and rebuild. But Hugh was involved in all of that. So, we could spend the whole show talking about that. I have done a whole show with Hugh talking about it. I've done a whole show with Rick Carter and Terry Green talking about it. But I'm thrilled to see Hugh's leadership.
And Hugh is so soft-spoken. He's not the guy that stands up and makes a big scene. He's the guy that kind of sits back quietly, and then when he's called upon, his words are very wise. They're limited, but they're very wise, and he kind of cuts to the point and gets a decision made in a room pretty quickly.
Yeah, he has. And look, incidentally, through all of his iterations, including his being a lawyer for Coastal Mississippi Tourism, through all those iterations, I had such a great relationship with Hugh. Always respected him. Always could trust him to be the leader that I know he was. I mean, and again, with all that as background, the foundation for him coming in as the new mayor of Gulfport. What an educated, experienced dude that's been around the world a couple of times. Terrific opportunity Gulfport. And
I told him I think he's a little crazy for taking it on, but I said at this point in your life, I think you're a little crazy for taking this challenge on, but God bless him for doing it. So there you
go. No doubt. And then Governor Fordyce honored posthumously. That had to be terrific.
It was, and a lot of people have a vision of Governor Fordyce of being anti-gaming, but he was very pro-business. So while he maybe wasn't the biggest fan of casino gaming, he understood that the taxes and the job creation would be a game changer for the entire state. Plus, it was Governor Fordyce who named the first 3 gaming commissioners and put them in place, and that really set the standard for how we were going to enforce gaming law at the state. And I can't remember the names offhand, but they're all fantastic businessmen that had no interest in making money off the gaming industry. They were there as an ethical board of directors. And it was fantastic. We've never had a big scandal in Mississippi.
No, we haven't. One of the, having a Las Vegas style oversight has really paid off well for us. And we've got public companies that are involved, and they're not messing around. They're going to do things the right way. Yep. One of the other things Governor Fordyce did is he negotiated a long deal with Indian casinos in Mississippi. And one of the beauties of what he did was, I'm just kind of recalling some of this, is that he didn't expect anything in return. He really wanted to provide an opportunity for them to be able to evolve the way that they have. And again, a lot of his leadership, it's been a while since we would talk about Fordyce, but you start to conjure up those memories, and you realize he played such an important role at such an important time in Mississippi's future when it comes to gaming. That is for sure. Anything else to say about that?
We need to work. Well, speaking of the Indians, the Choctaws especially, we need to find somewhere in our Hall of Fame, maybe not. They're not a member of the association, but maybe honor them for their contribution to gaming and tourism, and guys like Chief Philip Martin, the original chief who launched gaming up there. I think they need that recognition. I think it's been 70 years now since they got their charter to be a tribe up there in the land. So I think it'd be befitting to give them a little tribute. I know they'd come down and would be very
Philip
popular.
Martin. Undeniable leader of that tribe. I mean, the work that he did, my goodness, man, the visionary. I mean, who would have ever thought that it would evolve into what it's evolved into? My goodness. He was a force to be reckoned with, man, when he was leading that organization. My goodness. And so as a result,
I was up there. I was up there playing golf, and I came into the clubhouse and going to have lunch, and I knew he was sitting there. I saw the chief sitting there, and it's just me and him in the lunchroom. He goes, "Come over." So he asked me to join him, and we talked for an hour. Amazing man. What a vision.
Yeah. We'll pick it up on the other side with Michael Sunderman. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I always enjoy visiting with my friend Michael Sunderman. He has a good insight into the gaming world. He has Jackpot magazine. He also does a magazine for gaming employees, and then, of course, South Mississippi Living magazine. Terrific job in a time where print is not always the easiest approach. You've really kind of chiseled out your niche, and really kind of stayed the course. And it's been very impressive to watch. Listen, I didn't want to short circuit this. We were talking about Chief Philip Martin of the Choctaw Indians here in Mississippi. He doesn't lead the tribe anymore, but you were mentioning that you had seen him once at a golf course and ended up getting into a conversation with him. But I just knew him as a force to be reckoned with, a visionary leader that changed the course of history for the Choctaw Indians. That is for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so after our lunch, he goes, "You got a minute?" So we got in his car, and he drove me across from the casino. You wouldn't know it, but there's a whole bunch of industries up on the hill, including like Ford Motor Company, right? All kind of companies that he brought in there, and they probably had 5,000 jobs across the road that you don't even see. So he did that all before gaming was even there. Then gaming came there. They opened the Silver Slipper and then the Gold Moon after that. And I was there for both grand openings, and it was fantastic. And he was beaming with pride because that gave his tribal members a great future. and great jobs and opportunities to become management.
Man, it did.
Very happy about
Good.
that.
That's gracious. What, and it gave Mississippians, non-Choctaw Indian, jobs that have been created have been very, very significant.
Yes.
That's been great to watch. So anyway, congratulations on a very successful Hall of Fame ceremony. I've seen a lot of the pictures from there, but I think, you really found some really good ones to recognize. As I mentioned, after Katrina, I was there. I watched it. I was involved in several meetings to help put some of the meetings together because I was the tourism chair for the Governor's Commission. And there was a lot of heavy lifting that had to be done to get the land-based legislation through. And I watched it. And it took a village, Michael. It took a lot of people working together. Jerry St. Pé doing what he was doing, working with the big guys, convincing them to reinvest here, and Governor Barber, and I mentioned the speaker at the time, Billy McCoy, and the legislature, and our local delegation, and the private sector leadership. There was some serious heavy lifting over a very short period of time, man, because we had to open up that opportunity for casinos to be able to build back bigger and better and stronger, so they could make that investment. And I just hope that the next time we get hit, because there's going to be a next time, that we are more resilient this next time. I think we will be, but let's just hope casinos aren't hit as hard, because the investment back into this community was in the billions of dollars. And will that happen next time? Will it happen next time? What's your thought about it?
And a lot of that was insurance money. And had they not passed the Onshore Gaming Act, I would think 4, 5, 6 companies would have taken that big insurance check and invested elsewhere, and not rebuilt on the coast. So the Onshore Gaming Act gave them reason to stay. Only I think what Grand Casinos didn't rebuild, they sold. Rick Carter bought Gulfport, and I think whoever bought into Biloxi. But most everybody said, if you'll pass this law, we'll stay. And then they got some incentives to reinvest and build new amenities in the years following that. And that saved the whole industry. And I believe, I'm pro gaming, but I believe it saved the coast too. It probably 10, 20 years of recovery time saved.
I can't agree more. It was so interesting because in the week after Hurricane Katrina, when we had that meeting at the Sun Herald with Governor Barber, we talked about this, and Governor Barber specifically made the point. He said his primarily going to be focused on getting people their job back and getting the kids back in school. And then we'll worry about temporary housing and those kinds of things. But if people have a job and they know where their kids are going to go to school, even if it's at a temporary location, then they'll make a decision to stay here. But if that decision is delayed then people are going to they're going to be forced to leave the area. So it was magical, man, how we pulled that together so rapidly. And we had to hit on so many cylinders simultaneously. It's just unbelievable we were able to pull it off. Legislative approval, casinos commitment, the whole 9 yards.
I think it speaks volumes of the talent and leadership that exists in Mississippi that maybe nationally we don't get credit for, right? For a group of dozens of leaders to come together and pull this off in, like I said, a short amount of time and pull off that miracle. Save this coast and probably save the state millions of billions of dollars in tax revenue and jobs throughout the state.
It's billions. It's billions.
Yeah.
So it's very, very significant. And where would we be today? Holy mackerel! I hate to even think about it, man. But we're not there. We're in a great place because people stepped up to the plate, and I think as a result of all that we did, we're a lot more resilient. I think we're going to withstand the next storm a lot better than we did the last storm. That's for sure. Rebuilt back, stronger bridges.
And I think there's even capacity, and some legal sites down here now. There's capacity to grow another resort or two here, but they're going to have to be big resorts. You can't build a little cookie cutter thing and just take a little slice of the pie. You're going to have to make something a destination resort that's going to grow this market, bring in more plane flights, because still the majority of all our traffic comes in via cars. They drive.
Yeah. One of the ones I'm interested, we're at the end of the show. I can't wait to see what Roy Anderson does eventually with the Broadwater. I think that eventually is going to be an amazing resort. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
I see there's a bunch of work going on in the marine area. There's a bunch of work going on in the Marine area. What's going on there?
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Have a great day. We'll see you on the other side.